Hello, I'm Gloria Makarenko. Well, it's going to be a very different fall season for us all, but hopefully the warm colors and spicy tea bring comfort in our troubled times. This is our Vancouver. Coming up, COVID-19 isn't changing one Port Moody artist craving for big color. And the demand for plant-based fine dining is giving us new tastes to try in Chinatown. But first, a virtual Vancouver International Film Festival brings the stories to you. Well, the Vancouver International Film Festival starts September 24th, and it's mostly online this year because of COVID-19, of course, but it still offers 102 feature films, including many premieres, and there actually are some in-cinema events with adaptations for safety, of course. Well, Curtis Wallaschuk is the Associate Director of Programming. Curtis, hello there.
Hi, Gloria.
We are so happy that the show will go on, even in times of a pandemic. But let's talk about access to the material first off. How can the public see this large amount of material that you're offering this year?
Yeah, well, I think that, as with so many arts organizations and just people in general, we got into March and faced a lot of restrictions, a lot of closures, and we tried to move beyond that really quickly and think about the opportunities that were opened up to us. So what's really exciting for us this year is that it's the first year that anyone in the province of British Columbia can access the festival and enjoy our programming, which is very extensive. And they can do so by going to VIFF.org, which is our website. We have designed a new streaming platform called VIFF Connect, which will launch on the 24th of September. And people can either buy single access films at $9 per purchase, or this is where the value comes in. They can access an all-inclusive subscription, which is $60, which gets you everything in the festival.
$60 for access to 102 films. That's an amazing value. You're absolutely right.
Plus, I mean, on top of that, I think there's 80 or 90 short films. There is an entire selection of VIFF talks and panel discussions. You can easily binge on this for 14 days.
So just how does it work, though? Is there an hour that a specific hour that the film is available, or is it just open access, watch whatever you want, whenever you want? The talks aside, I mean.
Yeah, no, I think that the majority of the films, we have a few that are available for smaller windows of time. I think some might only be available for 7 days, but I would suggest that 95% of the films will be available on a VOD or on-demand basis from the 24th through the 7th. So people can watch the films when they so choose. That said, we do still have capacity restrictions on the films. So if there are things that excite you, things you want to see right away, please make purchase of a ticket or a pass and see them early, because this is a new frontier for us. I think we don't know, we don't have no frame of reference and don't know exactly how fast things will sell, or where those subscribers will send their views in the first few days.
Well, I know a lot of the appeal for VIFF is actually, and I'm going to say this, even the lineups, the lineups, the excitement, the anticipation, the chat afterwards. So you've got a new VIFF center, but you're not going to be able to fill it to capacity, but there will be some in-person viewings?
That's right. We're doing, I think it's 15 films at the VIFF Center, which will reopen on September 24th for the opening night of the festival, with a screening of Monkey Beach by Loretta Sarah Todd. And this will see the end of a 6-month renovation of about $3 million to the facility. Gives us a second screen, which is very exciting for the future when things return to some sense of normalcy. But for the time being, we will be having capacity cap screenings at the venue, which will get us to a maximum of 50 people. The way it's set up, it won't always be 50, but we're screening all the work by Vancouver, BC filmmakers, giving them one in-person screening at least, as well as some of the bigger titles, some films that have already played TIFF, like Ammonite and The Father. We'll have the Canadian premiere of Brandon Cronenberg's Possessor, and also very excited to have the 40th anniversary restoration of Dennis Hopper's Out of the Blue, which is perhaps one of the finest films ever shot in Vancouver.
Well, is there a particular theme this year? I mean, is there a characterization for this collection?
Oh, it's funny. I was listening to a podcast this morning, a film podcast, where they said, every film now is a pandemic film, and you just look for these kind of thematics in there. But I think there are a lot of films about, where you really key in on the themes of resilience and community. And I think you see that in a film like Monkey Beach, which opens the festival, and that plays out in a lot of iterations and in a lot of different ways throughout the expansive body of work. And then I think that, we also have films that more directly address some of the things going on in the world right now, like a couple looks at healthcare systems. Also a film called First We Eat by Suzanne Crocker, which looks at food security. And, she's a filmmaker who lives in Dawson City and looked at eating only locally for an entire year. And I think there's a lot of lessons in a film like that that can be applied to people's lives as they move forward right now.
Oh, for sure. Any other of the features that you're especially excited about this year?
I think it's the completest to me where I get really excited about the films I haven't seen yet. But there are, a number of standout works. One that I would cite is Nadia Butterfly by a Quebec filmmaker named Pascal Plante. I think that's a film that's exciting for us because we had the world premiere of his first feature film. This second feature was supposed to play Cannes this year. It was an official selection at Cannes, and of course, Cannes did not happen. And it's actually set at the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, at which Pascal went to Tokyo to shoot it with actual Canadian Olympic swimmers. It's a swimming film. And of course, the 2020 Tokyo Summer Olympics did not happen either. So you have this film that kind of set out to be exacting in its verisimilitude, and instead becomes this very strange postcard of a Summer Olympics that never happened. And I think it's kind of almost a perfect snapshot for this year as well in that regard.
Well, with so many films from so many different countries, how do you choose just what to bring to this festival?
I think, we're fortunate to have a really fantastic programming team, even in a year where we were operating with significantly fewer resources than we have in past years. We're able to call on people's fields of expertise and also the unique perspectives they bring to things. We have consultants for our East Asian cinema program that has been a long-standing pillar of the festival. And then for Canadian programming, we are excited to have, once again, BC-based Indigenous animator Amanda Strong work with us on that program. So in addition to some of the big Indigenous features in the festival this year, we also have a program like Intersecting Voices, which is the showcase of emerging Indigenous work.
Well, you've obviously found the silver lining in all of this, Curtis. I wish you well with the festival. I hope it just goes great. You've got so much to choose from. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much.
This is our Vancouver.
All right, it's time for one of our favorite features. This is when we get to showcase some of the photographs that are sent in by you, our audience. And smoky photos, that was the theme of the week. Beth Dunlop was on the shoreline at Comox Harbor and captured this beauty in the smoky sunset. Thank you, Beth, for sending us that. And Heather Jacoby was walking along Crescent Beach at just the right time of the evening to capture all the color that light mixed with smoke brings. It's just amazing, beautiful, thank you. And finally, Jennifer Williamson was out kayaking on Porpoise Bay near Sechelt. They can see the water there, that's good, but what a curtain of smoke right behind them. Wow, Jennifer, thank you very much. So just get out there with your camera and send us some shots. You can email them to us, bcphotos@cbc.ca. That's bcphotos@cbc.ca. Well, there has never been a more important time to feel connection to the community. And artists around the globe have certainly been creating works to reflect that, including talent from right here in BC. Meet a traditional textile weaver from Haida Gwaii. Her raining gold robe is now on display at the National Gallery of Canada, and CBC Arts asked her to explain the robe's significance.
My name is Lisa Hegemann Yakchinnas. I am from both Haida Gwaii and Vancouver. Raining Gold is a raven's tail textile. Raven's tail is one of the oldest traditions of weaving in the Haida Nation. It's unusual in that the textile is created with no tension on the warp. It hangs freely. So a full robe can take me 14, 15 months to create. I weave traditional pieces. Raining Gold is a contemporary piece and began its life in a studio in Paris. The piece is about the fact that we are not living on separate land masses, but it is about the connectivity of water. The top patterning is the rain falling on Haida Gwaii and becoming the rivulets and streams that becomes the oceans. And then around the robe, that patterning represents the water that connects us all. In the main design field, all of those designs are longhouses, which is my own design, and it represents community. And then I've done it in the inverse, which represents ancestral or supernatural teachings that we all follow. And the lightning is about community no matter where you are from. When you work together, the power that the lightning is meant to represent is the power we all have when we work together and the change we can have. My homage to Paris in the winter was, I'd go for walks and it was a gray day. And then there would be down a long boulevard, the clouds would part and there would be a ray of sun and there would be this amazing statuary and it would be all gilded and it would just glow. And it felt very uplifting. So I wanted to acknowledge that that particular band of longhouses was created in Paris. I come from a long family of weavers who are dedicated their lives so that we would not lose this art. And so for me, being a part of this exhibit is about my own role and my own responsibility in feeding this fire in the Haida Nation, and particularly the women of our family and our weaving tradition. So we were one more tiny step in hopefully what is a long story.
So this is a style of weaving known as raven's tail weaving. It's from the northern Pacific coast. It's weaving geometric patterns from the left to the right, and it's known as gravity-weighted weaving because the warps that hang vertically have no tension on them. So to make a piece even top to bottom, left to right, the weaver has to provide the tension with their hands. This is also the oldest style of textile weaving that we had in our nation, and it predates the Chilkat or Naheen style of weaving.
I try to weave in public so that people can see the devotion to it, but I make sure that I say to them, especially when I'm standing on Haida Gwaii, I say to them, if the environment of Haida Gwaii isn't healthy, I can't stand here. I can stand here because it is healthy. I can go out, I can harvest razor clams or Dungeness crab or spring salmon, I can pick berries. Because we care, the Haida Nation, part of our mandate is to care for the environment and keep it as healthy as we can. It in turn nourishes us. So were it not healthy, were it not strong, I would not have the time and the space to create my art. So I believe intrinsic to the pieces that I weave is acknowledging that if I care for the place I stand upon, it will care for me.
Coming up, meteorologist Johanna Wagstaff answers an audience question: how can climate change mean more flooding from hurricanes, but also drier summers for more forest fires?
Historic and devastating wildfires, Atlantic hurricane season that has broken all-time records, and a wet and warm Arctic that is actually not an anomaly anymore. The signs of climate change are front and center this year. But how can a warming planet mean so many different kinds of severe weather, from droughts to floods? Well, to answer this question, we have to understand what a warmer atmosphere does to the planet, because concurrent disasters will get more common as the Earth gets hotter. That means more weeks where fires, floods, heat waves, and disease layer on top of one another. Greenhouse gases are increasing the temperature, and as a result, the temperature is speeding up the rate of evaporation of water. So that in turn means more droughts, which leads to heat waves and wildfires. On the other hand, in places that are already humid, like the breeding grounds for hurricanes, that same evaporation leads to more clouds and storm formation, more storms, and ultimately more floods. And this summer, we have seen above average sea surface temperatures in oceans all over the world. In fact, some of the warmest ocean temperatures on record for the Atlantic Basin in 2020. As a storm moves over hot water, it transforms the evaporation of that heat into energy very quickly. And in recent years, scientists have seen evidence that global warming is already making cyclones more likely to grow large and powerful more quickly. So the intense hurricanes are getting more intense. Scientists have also found that hurricanes are dropping more rain, which means more flooding. Wildfires are also a natural phenomenon, but they are burning more frequently and intensely as the season gets longer, hotter, and drier. Wildfires thrive on high heat, low humidity, strong winds, and dry vegetation, all of which are more likely to occur in a warming climate. Throw in the possibility that there may be a link between increased lightning events and climate change, and it's a recipe for rapid fire growth. Now for the hopeful part. Well, it's clear that climate change and its impacts are happening now. But how bad it eventually gets depends on how quickly the world can reduce its carbon emissions. But be prepared for more weather records to be broken again and again. And now, you're Science Smart. If you have a science question on your mind, send me a tweet and I'll try to get it answered.
You are watching Our Vancouver. I'm Gloria Makarenko. Well, not even a pandemic can slow the craving for plant-based fine food in this city. MILA is a new restaurant in our historic Chinatown, and it's a sister restaurant to Virtuous Pie, the plant-based pizza place. MILA will have many more dishes on offer. Well, Chef Jim Vessel is in the kitchen right now. Jim, hello there.
Hi, how's it going?
It's going really well. How about for you? Just describe your workplace for us.
Yeah, it's really interesting right now. We're trying to make sure that we keep the guests safe as possible and our partners as well. So it's been a pretty challenging 2 months to get the restaurant open, but everyone's really excited to kind of open the doors this weekend.
Okay, so describe the menu for us. Well, what have you got on offer?
Yeah, so I would describe the menu as kind of like an upscale, premium casual dining menu. There's a little bit of Asian influence given that we're in Chinatown. So we have some homemade sushi. We have some other Asian-inspired dishes, but there's also quite a bit of a global influence as well. So we really wanted to kind of showcase some of the best and kind of most popular vegan cooking. So we've been able to kind of do that here.
Okay, well, there's certainly an appetite for vegan food in this city. I mean, a lot of chefs that we've spoken to said, oh, it's so tough because everybody has a different kind of a diet. But what's your view on that?
Yeah, I think for us, we definitely cater to different types of diets. But obviously with everything that's been going on, a lot more people have been open to plant-based eating and sustainable eating. And so we always want to just give someone somewhere they can go that they're going to feel really good about what they're eating. And it's going to taste really good as well. So that's our mission.
Now, I would love to see one of your signature dishes. You're going to make some mushroom toast for us today?
Yeah, so today we're going to be doing our wild mushroom toast. And that's kind of one of our starters, but it's super rich, really, really earthy, and has a lot of really satisfying elements to it.
Okay, so what's in mushroom toast? Why don't you take us through it?
Yeah, so I'm going to start by, we have some wild mushrooms here that have just been cooked down in some shallots and some garlic. And that goes into a pan. And then we take a demi-glaze that we've made. This is actually a vegan demi-glaze that we're going to put over the mushrooms. And we're going to cook the mushrooms in that demi-glaze to make a very nice, thick, syrupy, basically mushroom to go on top of our toast. So that's the first part of the dish. And then the second part is we have some really nice sourdough here that we're going to be grilling. So this goes onto our grill. Basically, what we're going to do here is just give it a nice little char. The toast is quite earthy, quite hearty, and the sourdough is a big part of that as well. All right, so once the sourdough has been grilled, we just take it over here, and we're going to finish it with a few things. So first we have a miso garlic butter. This is a very kind of rich, salty butter with hints of garlic and miso in there.
Miso garlic butter. Ooh, that sounds heavenly. Just that on toast, frankly.
Yeah, and then we're going to top it with some of our house-made cashew ricotta. So this is ricotta cheese made from cashews, and we're going to use that as a bed to hold all our mushrooms. So I'm going to create like a nice little divot here to hold all our mushrooms, just like that. And then finally, I'm going to grab our mushrooms at this point, and they're going to go back into my container, just like that. And we're going to top this with some of those nice mushrooms.
Oh, and fall is so perfect for mushroom season as well. It just feels like comfort food.
Yeah, this is a really addicting kind of earthy dish. It's quite, we use a mix of different types of wild mushrooms. And then at this point, really simply, I'm just going to cut the toast in half. And then we finish it here with a little bit of fresh greens, just like that, and some a few drizzled drops of truffle oil. So this truffle oil just gives it a little bit of extra earthiness and a little bit of kind of that extra kick.
Oh,
so there is our wild mushroom toast.
That looks beautiful. Move over avocado toast, I say. Bring on the mushroom toast. Now,
absolutely,
it's got to be tough still, opening a new place with all your expectations and all the planning that go into it during a pandemic. How hopeful are you?
You know, I'm pretty hopeful. This is a passion project we've been thinking about for quite a while. We took possession of the space in January, and we'd originally planned to open in May, but obviously, the world had other ideas. But, people are starting to dine out. I think there's a lot more people feeling confident in the safety procedures that restaurants are putting in place. So, we definitely feel like people are ready to get back out into restaurants. And as long as we can provide a really safe environment for our guests and our staff, I think that's something that people are going to feel comfortable dining in.
Well, cheers to MILA, Chef. Thanks very much.
Thanks so much.
This is our Vancouver.
Now, for those looking for some activities, Vancouver's Dine Outside Festival is wrapping up this weekend. There are still a number of patios and picnics that you can purchase to try something new in our city's large culinary community. Just head to the website. And Art Knapp's Nursery is still holding its famous Scarecrow event. It's a little bit different with COVID-19 precautions in place. It's now called the Scarecrow Stroll. So you can walk through a garden with more than 50 scarecrows in place, ranging from the traditional Halloween fair to fantasy and sci-fi. That is at Art Knapp's in Surrey from now through to Halloween. Now, with clubs and concert halls and theaters mostly closed because of the COVID-19 pandemic, artists are finding ways to connect with audiences. But is the future of performance online or at a distance? Ian Hannah-Mansing explores the future.
They want to keep it fun, they want to keep it safe.
If you're a country music fan, you may have seen Cora Blund in concert, but you've never seen him like this.
Hey, you guys heard that Cora Blund is here tonight?
Howdy, Saskatchewan, how are you? Everyone in the balconies, how you doing, folks? This is unusual. So this is our first show back, so thanks for coming to see us. Appreciate it. When the oil stops, everything stops, nothing left in the fountain. Nobody wants paper money, son, so you just stop counting. Can you break the horse? Can you light the fire?
After months of concerts being canceled by COVID, some creative thinking has led him here. What's it been like for you since then?
Well, it's been kind of a double-edged sword. We made a really good record, and I'm going to plug it. It's called Agricultural Tragic, but it's one of our better records, and we can't tour it, so that's the problem. But if you put those things, if I can compartmentalize those things, it's been a pretty good summer because, like I said, I don't usually get to spend time at home, and I've been writing a lot and playing a lot of music and catching up with the family.
You're in a parking lot at a hotel in Regina about to do a gig. How does that feel?
Well, it's actually kind of exciting because me and the guys haven't played for 4 months exactly almost, so it'll be pretty fun.
Well, she's never not had horses and she don't know what to do.
The situation, I'm not sure if you'll describe it to people, but they've got a wall, the back wall of the hotel, every room has a balcony, and so we're sort of in the parkade roof below it, so we're playing up to them. The Beatles played on the rooftop and played down to people, we're playing up to them.
When you break the horse, can you light the fire? What's that, I beg your pardon? You best start thinking where your food comes from, and I hope you tend a good garden. Have a good weekend.
For stand-up comics, cramming audiences into small clubs just isn't an option these days. Ivan, how are you?
Hello, I'm well.
Slightly unusual circumstances here. Two of Canada's best, Ivan Decker in Vancouver and Ali Hassan in Toronto, are still figuring out how to connect with their fans.
We are ready and rolling. Thank you. Here we go.
Everything's great. I can hear you.
So let's talk about comedy in 2020. We're months into the pandemic now. Ivan, what's it been like for you?
Yeah, I mean, for the longest time, I was retired, effectively. There was nowhere to perform. There were no shows happening. Everything just, it was very sudden. Like, you know, all the clubs just immediately closed their doors.
Yeah, I mean, I remember early May, my daughter was no school, and she was just like, I don't know who I am anymore. And then a month later, I was saying that myself. I was like, who am I? If I'm not a comedian, I'm not an actor. I guess I'm an occasional broadcaster at the CBC, but you know, that's not a good business card, occasional broadcaster.
Or even broadcaster, either way, not a good thing on the card.
Welcome to my backyard.
Singer-songwriter Jill Barber has been performing for nearly 20 years.
Never, ever quit loving you.
And while the pandemic has, for the most part, kept her off stage, it is, perhaps to her own surprise, opening some new doors. Had you done an online show before?
No, I was really reticent to do an online show. To me, at first I thought it would feel really disconnected from the audience. I didn't like the idea of performing to a computer screen.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to my living room. It's a little different for all of us, right? Strange times.
Stealing glances across a crowded room and taking a chance or two.
This is a new way for all of us to enjoy a live musical show.
Of knowing what to do.
So it's different than a dark theater where the audience is in darkness and nobody's looking at them. They were really kind of part of the show.
I invited folks to get in touch with me with your stories.
How are you?
Hi, Deborah. Hi,
Hello.
Tiago.
How are you?
Thank you so much for your email.
When I hear the song, give me strength that I need to leave my country and fight for our relationship.
I'm so thrilled. I'm so thrilled that that is the case. And I really appreciate you sharing that with me because
these are strange and emotional times for people, and we all long to connect with one another. And when we open up, other people open up as well.
smile just before you go away. Won't you kiss me one more time? Thank you, everybody.
It has been a difficult and isolating time for National Ballet soloists Tanya Howard and Sipe November, as they look for any outlet possible to continue to dance and move. So Ian here in Vancouver, welcome to both of you. Thank you very much for doing this.
Thanks for having us, yeah.
And let me start with this. How important is it for you to be performing in front of an audience?
The audience was such a mirror for us when they would stand or when they would gasp. I mean, when you hear the audience gasp, you're like, oh my gosh, they get it, we did it. So that reflection, once that is stripped from you, you really have to look inside in a different way.
The more time we were away from the stage in the studio, you start to feel a little lost. Who am I without my work? I always say I'm a dancer, you know, and so it's like if I can't dance, then what am I?
Sipe, for you, you have the Instagram videos. I don't know if that's a short-term thing or if you see that turning into something bigger. What can you do over the next few months to keep your career going?
There's an audience out there. The more I did these videos, that wanted to see these videos. People that were, you know, missing live performance. I think now what's happening is this merging of film and dance, photography, so that we bring dance into the digital space. We're gonna have to be innovative and creative and use all our platforms to really push dance in a way that we haven't really had to do before.
Coming up, there's the pandemic, the wildfires, and also a huge outbreak of looper moths to contend with. Belle Fury shows us how huge this outbreak has been. Hi, welcome back to Our Vancouver. I'm Gloria Makarenko. Now, if you have been out at night recently, you've likely seen them, or maybe perhaps the day on your window, in your room, perhaps being eyed by a pet. For weeks now, swarms of moths have been fluttering around. Parts of BC are in the grips of a voracious looper moth outbreak. And as Belle Fury of CBC's Impact team reports, areas around Metro Vancouver watersheds are getting the brunt of it.
The western hemlock looper moth may be related to butterflies, but don't let its beauty fool you.
So we're seeing some significant reddening as the trees are defoliated.
Red is a sign the trees are dying, and the looper moth is the reason why.
This is certainly a significant outbreak, and in its current state, from what I understand, on a provincial scale, the North Shore here is one of the higher intensity locations.
The looper is native to BC, but every couple of decades its numbers explode.
Oh, there might be fewer predators, fewer parasitoids, or a drop in the virus load that naturally is there that keeps the populations in check.
When that happens, loopers literally take a bite out of forests. The damage is done during the larva stage in June and July by the caterpillars.
And they're going to start feeding on the needles of a range of conifers and other plants and shrubs.
So far, just over 2,000 hectares of coastal forest has been decimated. The looper moth is the most destructive defoliator in the province, but it's not unique to BC. Over the years, it's destroyed millions of hectares of forest across the country, and while it prefers mature hemlocks, it will munch on cedar and fir as well. The outbreak has hit Metro Vancouver watersheds, the Sunshine Coast, and the interior. The province is mapping its severity and impact. In the past, BC has managed to weather looper outbreaks, but rising global temperatures could be a complicating factor.
if the moths are doing better as a consequence of a warming environment and killing more trees, then of course the forest is not prepared to replace itself as quickly if more trees than normal are killed. And so we could have a delay in recovery if indeed there is an impact of climate change.
Moths, of course, don't just stay in the forest. Neighborhoods are full of them.
Where the residential areas meet an interface with the forest, you're going to see the same type of activity that we're seeing right here in the forest. So a lot of moths being present in the residential areas, as well as some tree mortality.
Expect the moths to fly around until at least the end of the month. Belle Puri, CBC News, North Vancouver.
Now, for hundreds of thousands of Canadian kids, the fall and winter mean the return of minor hockey. But in the ongoing pandemic, there are serious concerns about keeping the game safe. Well, CBC's Jamie Strachan shows us how one of the biggest hockey associations in the country is trying to do just that.
Hockey went off in March, and it's not like in September we're just going to turn that switch right back on.
It's more like a dimmer, and as president of one of the largest hockey associations in Toronto, Susan Irving has spent a lot of time planning a return to the ice.
I think everyone has to realize that, there's going to be a lot of change with hockey, and change is difficult.
For most, hockey won't start until October, and then only for practice. It's unknown when games against other teams can start.
Now, there's no one back on the ice playing hockey just yet, but let me give you a sense of what it's going to look like using this table hockey game. For starters, forget 5-on-5 hockey. For most age groups, it's going to be 4-on-4 or even 3-on-3. There'll be no face-offs, and there won't be 3 periods, but 2 longer ones. Each team will start a period with possession of the puck. Same for goals. No face-off. The scored-upon team will simply get the puck. There will be penalties, but no one will be sitting in the penalty box. Instead, a penalty shot. All of these things are part of the Greater Toronto Hockey League's return to play guidelines. The world's largest minor hockey league is cautiously stepping back on the ice.
There's a lot of unknowns for us to be able to say we're going to be back for sure by this date. I can say we want to be back to traditional hockey as soon as we can. But that as soon as it can will only be when it's safe.
It's how provincial organizations across the country are moving forward. All plans a little different, but with the same goals.
I think everyone is suffering a little bit from COVID fatigue there. It's important for us not to take our foot off the brake here, and to ensure that we all put in the necessary protocols as in physical distancing.
There are other changes as well. Players will mostly dress at home, and no body contact allowed at any level.
Changing the game in terms of physical contact is going to be really, really hard for kids, because it's just part of the game. So we're going to really have to lean in on our coaches to really educate.
And arenas will be eerily quiet. No parents huddled together cheering and yelling. Parents can still help do up skates, but most provinces want only 1 spectator per player. All part of the slow process of restarting Canada's game. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
Coming up, the will of an artist and craving for more color. Welcome back to Our Vancouver. I'm Gloria Makarenko. Well, an international mural artist has returned home to Port Moody to add some color to the city. Ola Volo is almost done spray painting a mural on the side of a building of Rocky Point ice cream. And the CBC caught up with her to see what her inspiration behind the piece is.
So the mural that we're painting in Port Moody is about 20 feet high and 90 feet across. And it's going to take about the rest of the week. This mural in particular, it was a collaboration with Rocky Point Ice Cream and myself. And they reached out to me because they really wanted to see something like a narrative in an art piece. And so when we started to think about what we're going to put into this piece, we wanted it to reflect Port Moody and the animals that surround this area. You'll be able to see mountains and boats and seals and
bikers, everything in a mural where that reflects Port Moody. So when I got this offer, I knew that I wanted to paint something in my community for a long time, so it was just a perfect fit for having something that's super visible, something that my family and friends go to a park all the time, and I really wanted to leave a mark in the place that I grew up in. I'm fortunate that when I produce these murals, it's the perfect social distancing. As you can see, I'll be up in the air by myself or with an assistant. So I've been trying to keep it busy by planning ahead, and I think, what really sparked my interest in the next, in the next phase of my work is a lot more color, a lot more positivity, and I feel like it's our duty as artists to bring that to the streets. Usually with my work, you can kind of read the message really fast when you're driving a car, but with this piece, I think it's something where you can, have a picnic, enjoy the artwork, and decipher it with your kids.
Today, we're going to look back at the history and the legacy of Ron Sparrow. The Musqueam man who fought for his Indigenous right to fish passed away this week in Vancouver. And Sparrow is going to be remembered for his landmark fishing rights case at the Supreme Court of Canada. What started as a fight over net size transformed into a fight for the fishing rights of Indigenous peoples from coast to coast to coast. Wamish Hamilton of our Urban Nations unit prepared this look back on the Sparrow decision and the man who led the case.
The history of pushing Indigenous peoples away from the West Coast fishery has been long and targeted. As new settlers took more and more control of the fishing industry, people like the Musqueam were only allowed by the federal government to fish for food. That is until one day in 1984 when Ron Sparrow was arrested for using a net longer than he was allowed. He didn't know it then, but his case would change how Aboriginal rights in Canada were asserted.
Just a great fisherman, larger than life. He was like I say, very well respected on the coast.
Sparrow's case was lost in 2 lower courts until it wound up at the BC Court of Appeals. His charge was overturned, setting it up for a battle at the Supreme Court of Canada. By this time, the Musqueam Council and many national Indigenous organizations threw their support into the fishing case.
A lot of communities were upset with Musqueam at the time for taking that case, thinking that we were going to lose and it was going to jeopardize our rights. Now everybody benefits from it.
In 1990, 6 years after Ron Sparrow was charged on the Fraser River, the Supreme Court of Canada upheld the dismissal of all his charges under the Fisheries Act. The Musqueam had what the court ruled as existing rights that had not been extinguished by the Constitution Act of 1982.
From Bud's legacy and in the Supreme Court, conservation comes first. After conservation, our needs have to be met, and those are some of the struggles that we still have. And
the case set out how the federal government had to deal with Indigenous rights in general. Ron Sparrow passed away surrounded by his family after losing his toughest 2-year battle against cancer. But his legacy to all Indigenous peoples across the country over fishing rights will be remembered forever.
The fishing community has lost a legend in the passing of Ronald Bud Sparrow. His legacy will live on, and may calm seas and fair winds guide you home, cousin.
Wamish Hamilton, CBC News, Vancouver.
Ben Nelms is our staff photographer here at CBC Vancouver. His view on the stories of the day makes such a difference to us here. So here are a few images that made news this week. And that's all for our Vancouver for this week. I hope you'll join me weekday afternoons on CBC Radio 1 for On the Coast. Goodbye for now.